Good evening and welcome to tonight's show in conjunction with Unprecedented TV. And of course, we are joined wonderfully by Lembit Opik. We are very sorry for the little hiccup we have had. Good evening, Lembit. How are you?
Not bad at all. Good to see you. Thanks for having me on the show. It's the high point of my weekend. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Fantastic. As long as you stick to it, we'll all get along famously. Here we have a major problem with everything that has gone on today, and you will have heard already about the terrible incident that has happened on Bondi Beach, with many people being shot, being injured. There being a hero, and of course, many people have come flying out of the woodwork to condemn all sorts of people. And of course, as I say, we have, I believe, the live up and running on Rumble as well, on Rumble and on X. And if you are one of these people who's just tuned into what, let's get straight into this, because there is a very dark side to what has happened. And it is very important that we understand the people that it's happened to and the people that carried it out. Now, you're going to hear a lot about Hezbollah. You're going to hear a lot about Iran. You're going to hear a lot about the Yemenis. None of those are responsible for the attacks. And I will say this again, none of those are responsible for the attack that happened at Bondi Beach today. What we had was a celebration for Chabad on one side, and literally an attack carried out by another group who are just as fringe, and they are literally, they're called Wahhabis, and they're Wahhabi Suferists, and we will be showing you the evidence that shows quite clearly that that is the sect they belong to, and that sect is sponsored by Saudi Arabia. Let me say that again. That sect of people is sponsored by Saudi Arabia. Well, who are they? Well, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to show you a video, and hopefully you'll be able to stomach it. This is myself in conversation with Richard Willett, and this will give you a whole idea of what this is all about, who Chabad Lubavitch are, and everything else. And of course, as I say, people will turn around and go, oh, I'm not so sure. Have a look at this. Very simply, this is as straight as it gets.
No sound.
Can't really hear it, Warren.
Okay.
Yeah, you haven't plugged the sound in properly there.
Let me see if the sound will come back on. I am with the person I consider to be one of the
okay.
Talk to about this subject, who is a renowned expert on these various matters, and that is Richard Willett from Iconic, who is absolutely. It's always a pleasure to have you on, Richard. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me on. It's always lovely to speak to you, to see you.
It is, as far as I'm concerned, you're the go-to guy when it comes to this sort of stuff. Now, Chabad Lubavitch, what are they? Who are they? And why are they so dangerous? And what is it that they do that is so dangerous?
Well, the big danger for me is always how much of an influence they've got on so many different allegedly or seemingly opposing sides of conflict. They're in everywhere. Chabad Lubavitch are a messianic sect that currently station themselves in Brooklyn, New York, around Manhattan Way. They have a large following there, but also other places as well. London itself, if you Google on the maps, HQs or synagogues to Chabad, there's a lot in central London and the outskirts and boroughs of London as well. So they're everywhere, but they're very much unknown. I call them the men in black. They basically are the men in black to me. Now, it's the ideology that they have that is troubling, because the whole point in this sect, they're Lurianic Kabbalists. So they follow the Kabbalistic teachings of Isaac Luria, and he basically has a definition of the Kabbalah tree of life that doesn't really end up too well for the likes of me and you. They have a thing called Olam Haba, which it means world to come, which really is their new world order, which really is their golden age of Saturn. It's their 8th day after the 7th day of the Sabbath. So to put it really quickly, they believe the world was created in 6 days. It's the biblical stuff. And on the 7th day, they rested, or God rested. So there, we are now nearly at the end of the 6th day. So the creation of the world. Now, we're not supposed to survive. And by we, I mean anyone who's not of this 13 tribes of Israel. And they define that in all sorts of ridiculous ways. And it is Jewish is a faith, by the way, obviously. So Jewish, we're not talking about an ethnicity. We're not talking about a race of people. We're talking about a faith that anyone can adopt. But it's a specific inverted part of the Jewish faith, which 99.9% of them don't believe this stuff. They believe they are the chosen ones, but who doesn't? If you go to the Christian church, they'll believe that if they believe in Jesus, they're chosen. Do you know what I mean? So it's no different.
Everybody's a chosen one.
Everybody's a chosen one.
I do have a question here, Richard, because what we're talking about is 99.9% of Orthodox Jewish people are perfectly fine. Are these people what people would sort of popularly term as Zionists?
Yeah, they would be, but it goes way beyond Zionism. Is to me, from my research, is a front. It's a political front for this. Now, Zionism is all about making. If you boil it right down to the core of it, it's about making the biblical prophecies happen. Now, most people of the Jewish faith think they'll happen by God's hand. Now, these people are active. It's faith in action. That's where this stuff comes from. Sitting around doing nothing about it. This is let's go and make it happen. So when you see that, trust the plan or create the plan and do the bloody plan, basically. Yeah. So they're the ones that go out and actually, when you look at Zionism, the IDF, the Mossad, everything that's happening in the Middle East, that's been proactively done in the name of these prophecies that should be done according to the Jewish faith by the hand of God and at his own time. Now they have a timeline, which is the 6,000 years of creation. The 7,000th year is the Sabbath rest. The 8,000th year, the 8th day, is their world to come. We won't be here for that if these guys, lunatics, have their own way. Yep. Now, so that's what it is, mate. There's faith in action. They make this stuff happen. So yes, it's Zionism, but it's the ideology and psychology behind Zionism, which is deeply, deeply disturbing and has to do with them thinking they're freeing these trapped souls within our bodies of these divine sparks of light, going back up the tree of life to the one, the singularity. It gets very deep into the esoteric, but that is behind Zionism. Zionism is just the political front for it.
What we've got is these people going, we're not going to wait for God, we're going to give him a hand and move things along. Is that correct?
Exactly, that's exactly what it is. And transhumanism is exactly that. It's this making it happen. But because like the Jesuits see God in everything, they think that everything that they come up with is an extension of the plan anyway. They've twisted it in their own head. So they see that, oh, God, well, I've got this idea that's come down and emanated through me, and it must be from God, to, stick bits of metal in people and attach them to the smart. So it's all the same thing. But when you boil it down, difficult things, it's so complex. But it isn't, because it's complex in it's not we're the only ones that can. We need to become gods. We need to live in a world where we're demigods, and we're the only ones that can do it. We need to save the world. It's called repairing the world. Tikkun Ulam, they call it, or Tikkun Ulam. I think it's Tikkun Ulam. Repairing the world. They think they're doing the right thing. But this is the very core of Sabbatianism, which is what Chabad are, in my opinion. And it's the very core of Zionism. But it's only the upper levels that really understand this. Zionism is the political front. Most people don't understand why they do what they do. They don't. Look at these kids coming back from Gaza with their legs blown off, working for the IDF. They ain't got a clue about this stuff. They ain't got a clue what they're being used for.
No, exactly. And it seems as though they do infiltrate, because I want to make this absolutely clear here. Most Orthodox Jewish people are perfectly fine. But these guys, there is a link here with Russia and Ukraine, because currently we've got a Russia and Ukraine war going on. Now, I know for a fact that a lot of money was given by Israel for Zelensky to build an airport and an extra runway at this airport, so they could literally come to Ukraine to pray at the shrine of a rabbi. Now, apparently, his descendants were people who from Rishon. The first ever settlement in Israel was called Rishon LeZion. That was Russian or Ukrainian, literally the Zionist movement that moved there and created the first settlement. So there is this link, isn't there, between Russia or Ukrainian, Ukrainian Russians and Israel itself and Zionism.
There is a link between Russia, Ukraine, Israel, and the United States, 100%, and the UK. The UK is less obvious because it goes through the Zionism front. You don't have the Chabad lot, but as you said, look into London. These synagogues are everywhere. And I'm not saying everybody in Chabad, the lower levels of Chabad, are the young ones who get pulled into it, really understand what the actual end game is, but they do eventually. But the top ones do. So when you've got Lazar, who's a guy, who's a Chabad rabbi who's in there with Putin, very, very close to Putin. You've got the Chabad guys going over to see Zelensky before this war kicked off. They were in with him there, so they're on that side as well. You've got Donald Trump, who is knowingly, openly praying at the Chabad Schneerson's grave before he or memorial before he got re-elected. His son-in-law Jared Kushner is a Chabadnik. His daughter is a Chabadnik, and then you go over to Netanyahu, who is openly a Chabadnik, talking with Schneerson when he was alive, saying we're going to get this job done, this ideology done. So you've got these four main players here that are all connected by this same ideology. It's the ideology that concerns me, because if you've got that dangerous ideology that we can recreate the world by the end of the sixth day, then it's in with all these main players. Now, I'm not saying they like each other. I don't say they're getting on. They're not in charge. We all know that. We've done this long enough to know that they're not in charge. But Zelensky is just as much in there with the Chabad guys as anyone else. And I've had people that have taught me this stuff say that Zelensky's not part of it. How can you say that? And on the other hand, you say that he's not in charge of what he's doing anyway. They don't marry up.
So there is a question here, Richard, because people go, how can Ukrainian, should we say, Nazis, which are there is no question that Nazism is rife in Ukraine, and in fact, pretty much the Azov battalion and pretty much those guys at the very top control what is going on, and they are openly neo-Nazi. And anybody who says that they're not is not living in the real world. But we have this conflagration where people go, oh, Zelensky can't be a Nazi because he's a Jew. But the Zionists are not really of the Jewish faith, are they? They hide behind that. No. And they seem to be doing exactly the same thing in Gaza that the Nazis tried to do to the Jewish people back in the 1930s.
Yeah, it's exactly by their fruits you will know them, and you're exactly right. They are hiding behind the shield of Judaism, and when you talk to the most Jewish people, look at their outcomes. They say, yeah, we are the chosen ones, and all of this nonsense that any faith believes anyway, any cult believes anyway, and they are cultish, if not a cult. But what they say is in God's hands. I ain't got any problem with that, because I don't believe this stuff is ever going to happen. But it's when you start to make this stuff happen is the issue. Now, this is where the Sabbateans come in. This is the Sabbateans. They go back to the Ashkenazis. They go back to the Young Turks. They go back to the Saudi royals. They're not really the real royals. When you look at, then they are connected to the Ashkenaz, which is Nazi. So, find all of it deep rooted in the core. And what they do is they go in and they take over something that's established, like a virus. That's why they study.
So there we are. That gives you an idea of what we are actually dealing with, or the type of people that we're dealing with when it comes to Chabad Lubavitch. Now, it gets very deep and very esoteric, should I say, along these lines. But of course, these Chabad Lubavitch people are very, very real. There we see somebody who was killed today with the IDF soldiers and embedded in with the IDF, who actually goes there, breaks bread and everything else. And of course, we're going to get into all the videos that we've got. But when we then talk about who did it, well, that's another section of people that we need to be looking at, because the people who did it, we've got, shall we say, lots of people like Eli, this gentleman here, with a man on his shoulders was killed today. IDF. We have many of these people who, how can I say it, are, shall we say, strange to say the least. Now, who carried it out? Well, one of them, as you can see here, believes in the teachings of the Wahhabi Safarist or Salafist, I should say. And of course, people will be turning around and saying he's Hezbollah, he's Iran, he's Yemeni, everything they can to try and spin this. Now, very, very simply, we're going to pop up another one here, and it's called Wahhabi Salafism. Go and check it out for yourself. Here are the books on Wahhabi Salafism right there for you to see. And there is one of the gunmen literally with his teacher. Now, you will hear a lot of stuff about anti-Semitic. Let's be absolutely straight here. Anti-Semites, okay, you'll hear a lot of nonsense about anti-Semitism. There are all sorts of nonsense going on. And of course, anti-Semitism is complete nonsense. The narrative is completely wrong. Okay, the amount of clowns that are saying Bondi Beach was an anti-Semitic attack is frightening. Wahhabi Salafists are from Saudi Arabia. They are the very essence of Semites. Now, if you go and check Webster's dictionary, Semites are a member of any number of peoples of ancient southwestern Asia, including the Akkadians, the Phoenicians, the Hebrews, and the Arabs, a descendant of these peoples, or a member of a modern people speaking a Semitic language. Lembit, let's get your thoughts first of all.
Well, you've just downloaded a whole lot of stuff I didn't know, so I'm not in a great position to comment. I want to check, though. Really want to check I understand what you're saying. Wahhabi Salafism is some kind of puritanical movement.
Yes. It's along the same lines, Lembit, as Shabbat Lubavitch. They're both very, very way out their sects of one of Muslim and one of Zionism.
And you're claiming that this sect is responsible for the attack in
I am.
Australia. Now, you said that it wasn't anti-Semitic, but I can't see why you think that, because if this group is essentially Saudi-based and is a puritanical movement from the Islamic side, you could argue that they will hate Jews.
Yeah, you could do, but you could argue also that they hate other Arabs or other people, should we say, because this what we're talking about here. If you are turning these are what they term to be pure Arabs. Now, Semitic is one of those things which is overly and badly used, because Semitic means any people that are from that region. It's been how can I put this, bastardized to mean just Israelis, and it does not. Semitic is to do with languages, and it's to do with any of the people from that region, Lembit.
It tends to be used conventionally to mean a hatred of Judaism, which, to be clear, once again, let's remind ourselves it's different to disliking Israel or Netanyahu's policies. Israel's a country, it's not a religion, and Judaism is a religion. But I still argue, even if what you're saying is correct, they might dislike a lot of other groups as well. They can still be anti-Semitic. And in the conventional sense, that means hating Jews. In very simple terms, it seems to me you may have identified something tremendously important here in terms of the motivations of these people, these suspects. Why do we have to call them suspects? Well, suspects. But the reality could still be that they're trying to attack Judaism because it doesn't fit their fundamentalist puritanical agenda.
Yes, that is. It is entirely possible, and I will concede that point, Lembit. But for me, very much anti-Semitism is a word used to protect Jewish people, to invoke Holocaust, to invoke going after Jewish people, and really Semites are anybody from that region. So for me, to call it anti-Semitism is incorrect. That's like turning around and saying Hezbollah or Iran have carried out this attack, which they quite clearly haven't. And these Wahhabi Salafists are from Saudi Arabia. They are shall we say, they're as way out there as the Zionists are that inhabit Israel.
Well, yeah, it's still I'm sticking my guns on this one. I have to say though, I say this with some caution because I'm following what you're saying. I'm
Yep.
looking at some information about this group on my screen, Wahhabi Salafists, from a single source. So I haven't really been able to research it for obvious reasons because we're live on air. I would still argue that this particular group has a lot of reason to attack Jews because they think that's part of their enactment. The point that your guest, who had a striking resemblance to Ryan Gosling, by the way, but basically your guest was saying he basically was saying that these people are trying to use or are likely to use violence to invoke the outcomes that they wish to have. Is there a clear and established link between violence and this group?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Wahhabis have been known to use violence in many, many different forms and, of course, on many, many different occasions. Now, where I would add the issue here, Lembit, is you're saying Jews. Now, I don't conflagrate ordinary, perfectly decent Orthodox Jewish people with this far-out lunacy that is Zionism, which, of course, wants to, under their teaching, is bring shall we say, the judgment day forward and are quite willing to give it a helping hand. I mean, these are, how can I put this? This is just as much, these are the people who are carrying out all the atrocities inside of Gaza, which of course nobody is speaking about. And another thing we need to know, these definitely targeted these people or this group. They didn't just go out to kill Jews. They went after a rabbi, Eli Challenger, who was, of course, he is Chabad Lubavitch. And it was, in fact, a Chabad event that they targeted them with.
So, okay, so what more than often it does feel like a fascinating seminar and things I don't know, and it feels like that tonight. The whole bunch of things that I'll ask that maybe other viewers would be asking if I didn't ask them. Are you simple questions? What was this group that was attacked?
They were Chabad. So the group was having a beach party on Bondi Beach for Chabad Lubavitch members, and in fact, there are reports of the government actually telling Australian people to get out of the way. They were definitely targeting the Chabad Lubavitch group.
Okay, and what is the Chabad Lubavitch group? You mentioned it, but in simple terms, what do they believe?
They believe that they are, of course, the chosen people, but that God isn't getting on with it quick enough, so the world needs a helping hand to go straight down the toilet.
Okay, so what the people they attacked, how do they carry out their outcomes? Are they committed to violence as well?
Yeah, I mean, the Zionists are pretty much committed to doing anything they see fit, as are these Wahhabis. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying for 1 second that these Wahhabis are justified. They're just as crazy as, for me, as the Zionists are. And what they've done is they've then gone and carried out this attack on another sect, which is on the other side, if you like, of the argument. They've gone and attacked another sect, shooting them in another country. And trust me, neither of these groups care one iota if they do it in somebody else's sovereign country.
If what you're saying is correct, this reminds me a little bit of what was happening when I was Shadow Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, where extremist paramilitary groups started killing each other because they didn't agree with each other's version of extremism. And so they were both extremists. Well, some you may have heard of. The IRA obviously is fairly well known. The UDF, they were both paramilitary groups on opposite sides of the religious fence, and they'd kill each other. And then you have even more extreme groups like the INLA and all these other continuity armies and so on. They had their own civil war with each other, and they killed each other. And it sounds to me that you're suggesting that something like this is going on here.
Yeah, very much. So here's where we get into a bit of darkness here. Lembit, we've just lost Lembit for a second.
No, it's just the camera's gone off.
We've got him.
Sorry.
So here's where we get into a little bit of darkness here, because it's not like we haven't been seeing this coming. Now, I think very much along the lines, Lembit, as you and I have spoken about this, that this was always going to happen, given what's going on in Gaza. Now, somebody who did predict this with frightening surety was Candace Owens, who said that he'd been signalling a 9/11 style attack coming the second week of December. Save this tweet, it will age well. Now, that just could have been a weird and very strange guess. But certainly, if you believe, as I do, that this attack was carried out by this group is funded by the Saudis. And of course, they also, as you heard Richard say there, have sects within the Saudis that are very much along the lines of the same Chabad Lubavitch guys. So it all seems very, very odd, Lembit, that the timing of this, and also the fact that they targeted these people deliberately. They didn't go out and just shoot people on the beach or go out to just shoot Jews.
So it's a subset of Judaism. It's once again, let me check something I'm familiar with. Is this like saying they weren't attacking Christians, they were attacking Catholics? Well, they weren't attacking Christians, they're attacking Protestants.
Yes, in a way,
a subset.
Yeah, it's a subset. But let me give you a bigger heads up into why they were sort of going into this. Now, there is shall we say, a photograph. This is Aaron Arostakai, and this is a picture that he posted after he was part of this Bondi Beach attack, and he is well known, shall we say, as well for his views when it comes to. He is a committed Zionist and well known for his views. In fact, we have an article of his here, as you can see, Arsen Ostrowski. And here we go with his editorial and his opinion. Critics accuse United States. Now, it's pretty much why attacks on Iran are legal. And he will make the case for doing this. Now, this very much...
So carry on. I was going to ask it. It's a naive question, perhaps. Why are people so utterly committed to killing each other? It's just, what is it about these people that makes them think that violence is the answer? It is inevitably not. It's just inevitably not the answer. This inability to empathize makes me think that this bunch must all be sociopaths.
Yes, and that's basically what we're dealing with here. Is we're dealing with way out ideologies on both wings, and of course, you're going to get people trapped up in the middle of this, Lembit. And this is where, how can I put it? We sort of have a problem, but it's where we're going to go from here, because this is now going to be used, Lembit, as a club to beat Iran with. They're going to try and tie Iran to this. They're going to try and tie Hezbollah to this. They're going to try and tie absolutely anybody that they want to, shall we say, get rid of to this. When of course it is this particular sect who are doing it against another particular sect.
Yeah, this is again a little bit like what happened in Northern Ireland, where the violence ran away with itself, with observers, people like me who just wanted to. Well, I was growing up for most of the Troubles. Wanted to just live our lives. We're mired in this trouble around us all the time. And it was scary because the level of hate in the streets was scary. I'll give you an example. When I was at school, they had big, thick, wide, see-through tape all over the windows to try so that it would catch the glass if there was an explosion outside. When you saw a car parked in a strange way, you'd worry about crossing it. One of our pastimes was we'd stop and watch controlled explosions. One of the most memorable moments of my life was when I was about 15, and they'd shut off the street my school was in, and we stood and we watched an explosion. And first of all, you saw the explosion. Then you felt this massive overpressure, and then you heard the boom. Now, the problem is, and if you've lived in that environment, you don't want to live in it again. Now, these people seem to think that they can achieve that. If what you say is correct, and I have to take it on trust, they seem to think that think that wiping their enemies out is going to resolve their problems. And with a big dose of religion involved, I've got a strong faith, so I haven't got a problem with people having religion. But with a big dose of this violence, the whole thing becomes totally out of control. Now, there's another point, and we'll probably come to this later, Warren, I'm guessing, but this will be used potentially to justify other people's wars. And they'll say, look, this is what's happened here. And that's when the mainstream media, which is absolutely pathetic at analysis, is going to potentially misuse it. But maybe we'll come to that.
Yeah, we absolutely are. Well, let's come to that straight away. And as I say, anybody just go and check out this very simply, the teachings of these people and who they are funded by historically. As you can see, there's all their manuals literally there. And this guy was literally being tutored on this sort of stuff. So, of course, it is, how can I put it, incumbent. Now, we have upon you to go and have a look. Now, if you're going to be well informed about this stuff. Now, one of the gunmen, of course, the gunman was shot. And of course, as I say, there was a hero, and we'll sort of get to him in a short while, because the guy who did something deserves an absolute medal without any shadow of a doubt, regardless of what's gone on here. That man deserves a medal. Now, straight away, within inside 20 minutes of this attack taking place, there were reports of Hezbollah and Iran-backed groups all over the internet, and of course, Islam and the usual nonsense that comes out with it. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm no lover of either faith. I think anything that happens where that sort of thing happens is quite awful. And of course, everybody straight away got very upset because Channel 9 sent an Islamic reporter to cover a terrorist attack against Jewish Australia. Yes, and here we go, you see, not Chabad Lubavitch, Jewish Australians. A Jewish event was taking place at North Bondi. The same time, the terrorists were shooting at innocent people, and how badly they've got this wrong. And of course, we've got more and more of this coming out. Ambassador Tom Barak from the US. I strongly condemn the terrorist ambush targeting a joint US-Syrian government patrol in Syria today. And of course, that's happened at the same time as another shooting as well at Brown University. So we've got dead US soldiers apparently being targeted by Muslim groups. We've then got this attack on the beach by Muslim groups. And I'm sure we're going to find out that the attack at Brown University was probably carried out by some guy who was turned. And of course, many people are also blaming Yemen. They're saying that they came from Yemeni. And of course, what they're not telling you is quite a lot of these Saudi groups that are fighting the Yemenis. In amongst these are Arabs, and they are Wahhabis who are trying to wipe the Yemenis out. So anybody turning around and saying the Yemenis are party to this, I would turn around and say you're talking absolute nonsense, because they're absolutely fighting each other. And in fact, they are backed by Saudi Arabia. It is Saudi Arabia who are lobbing the shells at the Yemenis as we speak. And of course, we're going to get more and more of this. Marco Rubio, of course, as would be, is all over it. The United States strongly condemns the terrorist attack in Australia targeting a Jewish celebration. Anti-Semitism, there we go, has no place in this world. Our prayers are with the victims of this horrific attack, the Jewish community and the people of Australia. Now, Lembit, I'm in no way excusing these lunatics from shooting them, the same as I don't excuse the lunatics who go around killing kids in Gaza. Your thoughts on, because this is, it's sort of obvious where this is going to go. This is we're looking weapons of mass destruction, you know, the usual thing. This was organised by Iran, or this was organised by the Lebanon, or this was organised by Hezbollah, and then they're going to go after them.
I think what this feels like, Warren, is an attempt at encapsulating the entire conflict situation on Earth. We're talking about Australia, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Israel, Iran, America. It's really complicated. Yep. I'm in my relentless efforts to try and simplify things. What worries me the most is what you're implying, the willful misinterpretation of what's happened in Australia to confirm certain technical word paradigms, informal word prejudices, which will help the faltering Western empire, which will help it justify its decisions. That's what I think. I think that most of the politicians who are dealing with this are fools, are idiots. Keir Starmer couldn't possibly understand what you said in this show so far. David Lammy, these people are lamentable, lamentably inadequate intellectually to understand it. And in that stupidity, so stupid that Keir Starmer is now blaming climate change for immigration. It's just unbelievable. In that stupidity, clever evildoers can make hay. So turning to the specifics here, the story so far sounds like one extremist group on the Saudi Arabia Islam side has attacked another extremist group on the Jewish side, Zionist side. Let's not say Jewish. You could theoretically be a member of this group, I suppose, and not even be Jewish, I suppose. That'd be quite difficult. And so they're fighting each other. But then, one side's attacked this lot in Australia with pretty dramatic consequences, and at the same time, the mainstream media, which just hasn't got the capability, the intellectual capability, nor the will to tell the truth about these things, will be spoon-fed nonsense, which will then be broadcast. And you've just read some examples of it. Everything's reduced, just like the whole of the climate's reduced to a benign gas called carbon dioxide. The whole of this dispute is reduced to blaming people who the West wants to attack.
Yes, and that is where my major worry is, and why very much we wanted to make this very, very plain on the show, that this is not what it seems or what it's going to be presented as. And of course, as I say, Lembit, it's just going to get worse and worse. Now, one of the guys, the reason we know this is one of them has already been identified as Naveem Akram. And of course, he is Naveed Akram, I should say, has already been identified as one of the shooters. And of course, we're going to have some video of that for you in a short while of everything that's gone on there, simply because we are going to try and literally tell you right now. And of course, there's Ahmed Al Ahmed. Just in case anybody doesn't know, this is a guy who was an absolute hero, and you cannot praise this guy highly enough, because this guy broke cover while there was another gunman shooting to tackle a gunman who was, while he had no weapon of his own, who at any time could have turned around and shot this guy. And it was thanks to him that more people didn't die, because he actually kept them completely bogged down for a couple of minutes until the police arrived and started taking them out, Lembit. The fact also that there was a good 10 or 15 minute, shall we say, hiatus before any police actually got there. I don't think he had, we'll show you the video in a minute, Karis. I don't think he had much military experience, because he didn't really know how to fire the weapon, or didn't want to fire the weapon. Me personally, I'd have put him down. But the bravery, Lembit, to go out and tackle a gunman when you don't have a gun, and to also do that while you are under fire, is quite something.
Yeah, just on that, I was watching it, and there's part of you which made you just think, shoot him,
Yes.
disable him. You can't blame someone for not taking that step.
No.
But there was a moment when he could have done that, even if he shot him in the leg or something.
Yes.
He could have done it, but you can't blame someone for not taking a gun and pulling the trigger.
Not at all, Lembit. I've got to say, had that been me, but of course, then again, once you've been in that situation, you put your man down, and once he's down, of course, he's no longer a problem to anyone.
Yeah, but then you have, let's remind the viewers that you were a professional sniper.
Yeah.
You've done this professionally. I haven't. What would I have done in that situation? I don't know, but I think I would have been inclined to say I would want to neutralize him as best I was able.
Yeah. I have to say, Lambert, and that's someone who's been in that situation, not only in unarmed combat, but also armed combat, to have, as a civilian, to have the nerve to do that is rewarding of the highest bravery, because that is true courage under fire, Lambert, to go out and do that.
Yeah, and he probably didn't realize the guy could go and get another gun, which is what he did.
Yeah, exactly that. Well, we're now going to play you. We're now going to play you a whole lot of these videos, and every video that we have. I think it's only right and proper that we get an idea, and then if Lambert wants to comment on each one, we can do so. This is the gentleman you can see hiding behind the car, who's about to go out and tackle the guy with the automatic.
Oh! C'est un malade. Oh mon gros! Oh! Ouais, mais il y a son pote, il va se faire tirer dessus. Il est trop con, le mec qui a l'arme. Le mec est hyper courageux. Oh. Wesh. Oh l'enculé, il a pris une deuxième arme. En gros, il a récupéré l'arme du mec qui... Tu sais, il l'avait pris dans sa main là. Mais il y en a un deuxième là, ils sont tous les deux sur le bridge. Oui, oui, j'ai vu. Tu les vois les deux? Ouais. Mais gars, je comprends pas ce qui se passe, gars. Je suis terrorisé. Mec, c'est un attentat, frère. Eh, il y en a un, il est en dessous du bridge. Mais genre, c'est un attentat devant nos yeux? Ouais. Gars, une minute de plus, on était dehors.
That is one of the videos. Let's get into a couple of others. We'll go down them in order as we downloaded them so that you can have a look and get a total idea what's going on. Here we go. Here's another angle. That's one. We'll get on to the next one. Here we go. By the way, some of these videos, by the way, do show people being hurt or people being killed.
Rescue him!
He's dead.
Good. They have to, but fucking move. Hey, take a walk. Take a walk. Get off! Rescue!
Now that is on the bridge trying to resuscitate the two gunmen. And of course, shall we say, people were not very, very happy, as you wouldn't be when somebody has just tried to kill you. So let's have a little look at this one as well. Of course, we're going to show you every video we have so that you can see. So there is that one. And of course, we have multiple angles from multiple people all taking all sorts of videos here.
Oh shit. I'll find it, I'll find it.
You can hear the mass panic in the background with the gunfire there, Lembit. Having been in war-torn countries when this sort of thing goes off, I can tell you that that is exactly how people react. They don't know where to run. They don't know which direction. They don't know who's doing the shooting. And there is just mass panic.
I'm not surprised. You're there at an event where presumably people you know, and this happens from a distance. And
yes.
I don't feel any sympathy for the killers. They obviously decided that they were going to die in their activity. So they made their choice. And I have a simple view on this. If you behave in a certain way, well, you lose your rights. If you want to take someone else's rights away, you lose your rights. That's not an eye for an eye. It's simply the idea that if you're willing to stand on a bridge and shoot people, you can expect to get shot. And one of them is in critical condition.
Yes.
I can understand why people didn't want them to be resuscitated. So
yes.
I mean, regardless of the politics of the situation, I'd be willing to bet, although I probably have pretty big disagreements with the victims' philosophy, they don't deserve to die for it.
No, exactly that. It is quite staggering. And we can, and don't get me wrong, this program wholeheartedly condemns the people who did this. It is important that we realise that there were two gunmen. It is important that we realise who was responsible for this, and we don't go off half-cocked. It is quite obvious from obviously the manuals and the postings of this gentleman one of these gentlemen on Facebook that he was indeed one of these people. Now, this is going to raise its head, and we have to ask, Lembit, is this not a false flag, but people are going to say that this was a setup, Lembit. Do you see it in those terms, or to stir up a problem, or do you just see it as one set of lunatics having a go at another set?
I can't comment. I have absolutely no competence to comment because I don't know enough about it. My opinion is that these people clearly had a political motive. There's no doubt, in my view, it wasn't just a mean-spirited attack. It was clearly politically motivated. And I go back to what I said before. I do think it's reasonable to say that somehow or other it was anti-Zionist. I'm not sure if it's anti-Semitic. Actually, maybe it is anti-Semitic, but these definitions are very important. But maybe we'll find out. But
yes,
I think at the end of the day, I believe in personal responsibility, and the people I hold responsible are those horrible scum who did the job, the horrible scum who was standing there. They're the people I hold responsible. I don't hold the people who the victims responsible. I don't hold that other group responsible.
No.
They didn't ask to be shot dead, and they weren't attacking anybody, and they didn't attack anybody. And so, as far as I'm concerned, I don't want to complicate this. The people who deserve to be found guilty, the guilty parties, were the ones who were holding the guns.
Yeah, exactly that. Good call. Nilus, then Mark Hunter.
Yeah, it's a grey area, isn't it? If it's a false flag or not. I think we have to see what the results of it is, because if you're right, Warren, and they blame the Yemenis, Hezbollah, and Iran, then it's probably a false flag.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't. The only reason we have to discuss this is because it wouldn't be the first time, Nilus, would it? I mean, look at the two people, or should I say, the two people from the Israel embassy who were shot outside a museum in Washington, literally about 200 yards away from the FBI office. And then he suddenly just stood there, not bothered in the slightest whilst he was arrested.
Yeah, and from my understanding, these two groups they're funded by the same sources, and they're sort of they're on the edges of Satanism, or they're the sort of Jewish and Islamic extremes, but they're not.
Yes.
They're very far from those two religions. They're satanic in their nature.
Oh,
And
I think anybody who goes around killing people for a living is pretty satanic in nature. But
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from.
And in satanic cults, it's not unknown for them to sacrifice each other, and
No.
or they'll rape a woman who within the cult, and they'll sacrifice her baby, yeah, and things like that. So
certainly, when you talk to Richard Willett, some of the things that they have done is quite horrific and documented.
And as we know, from Syria, the new government in Syria is hasn't come out. It is very pro-Israel. It got rid of Assad, who was anti-Israel, was trying to defend the Palestinians. Then the Palestinians have lost that supply line now from Syria.
Yeah, yes.
And we know the Saudi Arabians and the Gulf states that are heavily investing in both Israel's arms trade and in their AI. And this is from called Low Key, who is a singer, but he's also a very
okay. Let's get Mark Onza in. Mark Onza.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement, but I want to go back to October the 7th incident, the original one. Let's look at facts, because that's what we deal with on this program.
We do.
They shot their own people from an attack helicopter who were partying.
They did, yeah. Yeah, it's called the
So
Hannibal
it's not the
Directive.
first time. It's not the first time they've done it. And I think this is to gauge a level of sympathy to shadow what they're actually doing in places like Palestine. So obviously it's a terrible tragedy, but I think it could possibly be done deliberately.
Just for those people who don't know, the directive was passed by the Israeli parliament, and it's called the Hannibal Directive. No negotiating with terrorists. If you have to take out, if some people die in the exchange of gunfire, so be it.
Sacrificed for a sympathy vote.
Okay. There are questions to be asked. There's certainly lots of questions to be asked. I've never really fully asked Lembit what his thoughts are on October the 7th. How does Lembit, the most watched place on the planet, suddenly get its fences knocked down by bulldozers, gyrocopters, and people in jeeps coming across with automatic weapons?
Yeah. It's really confusing. There are only two explanations. Either it was permitted, or the Israeli Defense Forces are absolutely terrible at defending its territory. Those are the only two possibilities. I'm agnostic about which of those it is, and here's why. Whatever the reason for the huge loss of life on October the 7th, Israel has used it as an excuse to seek to annihilate Gaza. So whether it was incompetence or intentional, the outcome's the same. 1,200, or maybe it was 1,200 Israelis were killed. It's a very large number. In reality, it's something like 70,000 Gazans, almost all of them civilians. And if you include the deaths caused by other secondary factors such as medical shortages and lack of food and so forth, it's probably a six-figure number, almost certainly six-figure number. So whether it was incompetence or intentional, I don't know, but I do know that it's been used for very strong political purposes to such an extent that Israel's natural allies have turned against it. Not all of them, but some of them. And then you see things like the rejection of Israel at the Eurovision Song Contest, where countries are using that to express their revulsion of what Israel's done. That you realize that it's been used absolutely ruthlessly. And once again, we get this argument, oh, if you don't agree with Israel's actions, you're anti-Semitic. It's just ridiculous. It's like saying if you didn't agree with Tony Blair's war in Iraq, you're anti-Catholic because Blair's a Catholic. That doesn't, it's nothing to do with that. So we could have the big debate about whether it was permitted or not. The thing is, it happened. So whether it was a false flag operation of some sort. And I know people who very strongly believe that. But it doesn't matter to me, really. What matters to me now is the 70-1 death ratio, which has resulted. And if you afterwards, and if you actually think about the proportion of Palestinians who've died, it's far higher. There are 5 times more Israelis than Palestinians. So actually, as a percentage of the population, over 300 times more Palestinians have died than Israelis. It doesn't make it right what happened on the 7th of October, but it doesn't make it right what's happened since.
No, it doesn't. And I think it is something that we need to sort of look at. It is an odd thing where it just comes after the US have started bombing Syria. And of course, we've now got US patrols out on the streets in Syria after the death of 3 US servicemen in an ambush in Syria. Let's have a little look here. And this is what Trump had to say. Oh.
3 great patriots in Syria. You know how it happened. There was an ambush, terrible. We also have 3 wounded. They seem to be doing pretty well. But we mourn the loss. These are 3 great people. And it's just a terrible thing. Syria, by the way, was fighting along with us. The new president of Syria is, as they told me, and I'm not surprised, he's devastated by what happened. This was an ISIS attack on us and Syria. And again, we mourn the loss and we pray for them and their parents and their loved ones. Very, very sad.
Mr. President, will the U.S. retaliate against ISIS?
Yeah, we will.
And will the U.S. forces attack again?
You're going to be seeing.
And should the U.S. still be
We will retaliate. Thank you very much.
Now, we have a bit of a problem, first of all, to do with the fact that who funds ISIS. And we do have a problem, and we sort of have to look into that as well. But of course, we've got the American CENTCOM have come out and released this on December the 13th. 2 US servicemen and 1 US civilian were killed. 3 service members were injured as a result of an ambush by a lone ISIS gunman in Syria. The gunman was engaged and killed. As a matter of respect for the families, in accordance with Department of War policies, the identity of the service members will be withheld until 24 hours after their next of kin. Updates will be provided as they become available. 2 US servicemen, 3 service members injured. The result of 1 lone gunman from ISIS, Lembit.
Tricky because, correct me if I'm wrong, but our new big buddy ally in Syria was in ISIS. It's a perverse situation where our enemies become our friend. There was a time when President Assad was regarded as a big good guy, you know, on the right side, everything that goes with it. Then the guy who's now in charge had a $10 million bounty on his head, dead or alive, as far as I recall. But now it's the other way around. It's, you know, you're opening to this program's potentially confusing, but that's because the situation is almost incomprehensibly messed up. It's almost incomprehensibly messed up what's going on, and it's bothersome, really bothersome, because you just think, how mad is it where we've got incompetent politicians unable to make anything happen, as we see with the Ukraine thing, where Europe is just dissolved into farce, and we've got this weird relationship in Syria, and where the press simply don't understand the kind of things you're explaining. It is complicated. It's not simple. And most people won't have the attention span or the political interest to understand it because it's far away and it doesn't affect them directly. But if you put it all together, there's this drifting, imbecilic stupidity in people like Starmer and all those other people we normally talk about in regard to Ukraine who don't understand any of what you've been discussing tonight. And that makes it very dangerous.
It just. We'll have Nilis and then Lee Williams.
Yeah, I heard this lone individual that killed these Americans in Syria was working alongside the Americans, and he'd just lost his job, and that's one of the reasons he did this.
Nilis, that's happened a lot in Iraq and Afghanistan, where somebody who was supposedly on the American side was just in there and then turned his gun on other people. That's happened on numerous occasions. You would have thought they would stop giving them guns, wouldn't you?